I would like to congratulate my longtime friend and colleague, Roger Neel. This is the officially the 40th anniversary since Roger Neel began here at WNBF. Congratulations, Roger.
Thank you. It's so long ago I can almost not remember.
Those were the days. We were reminiscing the other day about how a couple of things have changed in the business since you joined WNBF back in, really, it was 1988, 1978?
1978.
That was the 70s.
A funny story. When I came, I actually came to town to be the broadcaster for the Broom Dusters. My friend Jay Roberts had taken a job elsewhere, and it came fairly close to the hockey season. I was in Johnstown and had done the Jets games there, but of course we had a huge flood that destroyed the ice-making equipment in the arena, and so they could not have hockey for a season. And then as the second year approached with no hockey, they were hoping they could do it, but still the arena was not in good enough repair to have it. So in the interim, I had done college basketball with the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown and was all set to do it for the second year, but Jay was leaving, and our then general manager, Kitty Bocock, asked him with fairly short notice if he knew of anybody who could do hockey and might be interested in a job in the American Hockey League. And of course, the North American Hockey League was a lot of fun, but it was a lower league, and they didn't have a team and did not have it that second year. So I was available, and that's how it transpired. He recommended me. I came up for the interview. I had to be approved by both Kitty Bocock, our general manager, and Jacques Caron, who was the general manager for the Broom Dusters, because it was a situation where both had to approve the broadcaster, and that started it all. It was a funny story after that, though, because I came to town at the time. The hockey team, we had an affiliation with the Quebec Nordiques, and the training camp was being held in Quebec, so they immediately sent me to training camp because the season was within like 10 days. So I came to the studio, which was on Henry Street then. I had all my worldly possessions in my car, and I left a TV in the engineering room of the station. And aside from that, I had all my clothes in my car. So you can imagine the security that people go through now. Well, at that time, I had to go up through Niagara Falls and cross into Canada. I think it was Niagara Falls where I went. And then on up into Ontario and then into Quebec City. But on the way, you have to go through customs, of course, and I had a hatchback car jammed to the gills with clothes, and everything I owned except the TV was in there, because I just came overnight and had to go right to training camp, so I had no place to stay. So a customs official looked at my car and he said, "You over here, pull over." So I did, and I thought, here we're gonna, what's gonna happen? Well, anyhow, he said, "Open the trunk. I have to look at your stuff." Well, I opened the trunk, and shirts, pants, shoes all fell out because it was stuck. I mean, I could barely shut it. And he looked at it and he said, "Where are you going?" I told him the story, and he said, "Just get out of here." He said, I had to stuff everything back in. But that's how it all started.
When you first learned of the possible opportunity in Binghamton and you headed up here, what were your thoughts? Did you have a high level of confidence that this was something that was likely to work out, and that you probably would wind up with the gig?
I didn't really know, but I thought if they called me that I was some interest. But it was also funny because I was at WJAC in Johnstown and was recording. I had a recording session for commercials. At the time, we had a production director who you would record the commercial. He'd put music beds under, whatever we had to do. So he got a phone call in the early afternoon one day, and he said, "Roger, there's a phone call for you." And I said, "Me?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "There's a Miss Kitty who wants to," and we would play pranks on each other all the time. So I said, "Yeah, right." And Matt Dillon's where, you know? And he's laughing. He said, "No, it's a Miss Kitty." I said, "Get out." So I picked up the phone, and she said, "Hi, how are you? I'm Miss Kitty." And she was from West Virginia as our general manager, one of the kindest, greatest people I ever met. but it was Miss Kitty. Are you kidding me? So he said, "Who was it?" I said, "It was Miss Kitty."
It
but
really was.
You couldn't say much then because I didn't know if I had a shot at the job or whatever. So I just said it was somebody that wanted to talk to me, and we left it at that. But I came up for the interview, and she showed us. As a matter of fact, you were part-time at the time, and you were actually in the building on the other side of one of the studios looking at me and saying, "Who's this guy coming in?" But I remember that. You were like 14 then, right? Something like that?
Maybe 12.
Maybe
I don't
12,
know.
Yeah, but I remember you were here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of ironic, but she was a wonderful woman, and I luckily passed the test with her and Jacques Caron from the hockey club. Jacques was a great guy, too, so the combination worked out. It wasn't just a full-time hockey job. It was kind of a utility announcer. I did a lot of production, recording commercials, putting music under commercials, and then also subbing for people anytime somebody was off. I would generally be moved around into, if not that position, some other place to fill in. So it was a combination job, but I had no idea that I would have an actual chance at it, But I think one of the things that helped, well, two things. Jay recommended me. Otherwise, I'd have been in a pool with hundreds of people. And then secondly, it was only a couple of weeks till the season, so it wasn't like, May when they had ample time to open up a big search. So the combination was just luck that it happened that way. And but I remember the customs guy just looking at me like, just get out of here. Just take your junk and move.
So when you look back on those early years, when you were doing so much travel during the hockey season, all around the East and then into Canada, and to be blunt, the type of travel arrangements that were available for minor league hockey teams and the radio announcer, I don't think, from everything I heard, that it wasn't exactly luxury travel accommodations. I mean, it was okay, but those were long trips, and I have a classic picture that we've seen circulated around here, you on one of the buses during a really long trip, either maybe heading back to Binghamton or whatever in the middle of the night or early in the morning, asleep. It took its toll, and you also had your regular on-air duties and commercial production and a multitude of other things. I mean, that was good thing you were really young back then.
Well, part of it, too, was as a utility announcer, I usually filled in, but I wasn't, doing, say, the morning show, for example. So on those days, the way it was set up, that we had a game we'd get back at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, I usually didn't have to be into 11 or 12 the next day versus, on the air right away. So that was a different situation. And then I would stay sometimes later in the evening to get all the production work done. But it was just a little different overall schedule than it was today.
And, of course, over the years, in addition to the on-air hockey that you've done, you've been very much involved in other activities. For many years, you spent a lot of your nights, many of your nights at the stadium, working baseball games. And those cases, a lot of times that meant you had very little sleep time before you were in here to do the morning program, First News. I mean, you were busy here in the morning on the air, throughout much of the day in your office with administrative work and production work, and then you were busy at the stadium during baseball games that, if you were lucky, you might get out of there maybe after 3 or 4 hours. Some nights, going into extra innings, or if there were rain delays, you could be up very, very late.
Sure.
You had to be back here at the station very, very early.
Well, the tough thing, too, was that usually homestands were 6, 7, or more games, and so it wasn't like you would have a couple late nights and then you'd be done. They'd go for an entire week. So that would make it difficult, because by the time you got, say, if they started a homestand Wednesday, by the time you got to Friday or Saturday, you'd already had 4 or 5 extra days with late nights, and so you'd be in the shower trying to figure out what day it was. Sometimes it was a lot. The reason I did it, I love baseball, and I had a lot of fun, and I've been so lucky to meet so many great people, both with the baseball teams, with high school athletics around the area, of course, with the hockey teams over the many years, and now with Binghamton University. That has been a true joy to me. So I've been very, very lucky to meet the people that I've met, and it's been great. But with basketball, last count, I'd done games in 29 states in Mexico, and also with hockey, of course, up into Quebec province and Ontario and the Canadian Maritimes. So I've got a few miles over the over the years. I always tell people if I had $1 for every mile, I'd be talking to you from my condo in Florida, but it didn't quite work that way.
And yet you still have this enthusiasm. We didn't even touch on how much involvement you have in the community all around the Triple Cities. You don't stop once Friday rolls around. You don't stop going out and meeting people and chatting with people. You're part of the community, in many cases, 7 days a week at various special events, sporting events. You're a fixture. People see you around town.
Well, you're from here, so you understand. I'm always amazed when people will come up to me and say, "Yeah, there's nothing to do around here." I wish many times, like you do, there were two of us, because there's so many events that you just can't get to physically because you're at another at that same time, or at some point you do have to lay down for a few hours, But it's wonderful, and I've just been blessed to be able to be out at some of these festivals, many of them, and be a part. But it all comes back. I was also lucky enough to work with Empire Sports on a freelance basis out of Buffalo for a number of years, in between time when hockey wrapped up and then basketball started. But everything really emanates from WNBF, what we've been able to do here with hockey and high school athletics and basketball now, and of course tie in with the baseball team. So we've been quite lucky, but this area is just remarkable with the number of festivals and all these things that go on. And it's just a great, I'd probably, even if I wasn't actually working with the station on assignment, I'd be going to them anyhow. So, it's great. Like I said, we've had a chance to meet so many super people, and it's, it doesn't, there are times like anything where it seems like 40 years is about 100, but many times it's a blink too. You cannot possibly believe everything's gone that fast.
There have been so many changes in the industry, radio and TV, broadcasting in general, and media over the last 4 decades, both the way things are organized with corporations owning more. There's been a lot of consolidation and changes. We joke how, like our industry, like most other industries, we're always doing more with less. That's just the way it is, and a lot of that's because of the changing technology. When you arrived at WNBF, you saw our studio with a couple of turntables and what we called cart machines. I think it was a 5 or 6 spot cart machine, and we had our FM station WQIT with tape reels. All that is gone now.
Yeah, it's totally different. Even for remote broadcasting, it used to be a huge nightmare just to try to get on the air from many places. You'd use a phone line. Sometimes the phone lines wouldn't work, or they'd be destroyed by a concert in the arena, not sometimes here, but other places, before you got there, and they'd be vandalized, and so it wouldn't work right. And it was much difficult. The technology to get on the air, while it's not perfect, and there still can be issues, is much better. I've told our engineers over the years, I said if they had some of this equipment when I first got here, I'd still have hair. Because the hardest thing about a lot of broadcasts is just to get on the air, and you know that. And so, that's been a challenge. I do want to, I want to say one group of unheralded people are the engineers and the tech people. We love to do what we do. Most of us are a little technically challenged, certainly with respect to the guys that do the work, but we've been so lucky. When I came here, a good friend of mine, Larry Hodge, was the chief engineer. He could get you on from about anywhere. I mean, he was remarkable what he could do to tie in everything. And then, of course, from there, Rick Elliker, who had his own studio in New York, remarkable. Sean Holbert, who really set up a lot of our broadcasts that we could do remotely. I mean, he was a technical whiz. They both work at Cornell University now, so you can see how good they were. They were tremendous. Kevin Bixby, who is at a moment's notice able to get us back on the air with our transmitter that doesn't just magically stay on forever in thunderstorms and heavy rain and everything. These are the guys, the unsung people, because we can. If it wasn't for them, we talk to ourselves. Well, that's going to last about 5 minutes. So Those are the guys I think I respect the most because they can do some pretty miraculous things, and they've done it for us over the years. So the combination it's been great. Like I said, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. You know?
Well, in addition to acknowledging the technical people, of course, there are all the others, too, behind the scenes, too. The office people.
Salespeople?
The salespeople. I mean, the whole thing has to run relatively seamlessly. You can't do this type of operation without everybody providing the support they do, full-time, part-time. I mean, we've been blessed with a lot of people who have been with us in various capacities throughout the years, and I think so many things have really worked out in our favor here at WNBF that even in 2018 we remain an important part of the community. And Roger, it's also through, in large part, the contributions that you've made over the last 40 years. Our listeners are responding. They're wishing you the best and also extending their congratulations because, Roger, you have been part of their family for the last 4 decades.
And they've been part of mine, too. Thank you.
And we love it.
Thank you.
Roger, thank you. And again, congratulations.
Thanks.